On the 28th of September 2019, the Minecraft community went ecstatic during the announcement of the 1.16 update. We had sneak peeks for all sorts of blocks, mobs and game mechanics, and there's still plenty more to come. So today, in this episode of Let's Add, I'll be going through each feature that has been confirmed for this update, as well as lots of other things that would fit perfectly into this game. But before I get into anything, during my brief absence I made a little investment. I recently purchased a Blue Yeti Nano microphone, which will remove all background noise from my videos and boost the quality massively. So be sure to see a boost in quality for my next few videos. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get right into the Nether update. Now, the first feature that we were introduced to in the 1.16 trailer were two brand new biomes, the red and the blue netherwart forest, and I'm going to focus firstly on the red netherwart forest. Now, this would be primarily composed of red nethergrass, but this would only make up the top layer of netherrack. Everything below it would just be netherrack. Now, this acts like normal grass in the overworld, so if you break it without a silk touch tool, it will just drop netherrack, and it will also be able to grow on top of netherrack. However, instead of using a shovel, you have to use a pickaxe. As well as this, a new type of tree, the red netherwart tree, will grow. The trunk will be made up of red veinwood, and this can be used to craft 4 red veinwood planks. As well as this, what would normally be the leaves would be replaced by red netherwart blocks. Now, this actually already exists in the game, however it would be renamed to red netherwart blocks instead of just netherwart blocks. This is because there would be a blue feature added later on. As well as this, there are some brand new bits of foliage, including sporal vines, which would be purely decorative and would hang from both the trees and the netherrack. As well as this, there would be spikeweed, which would act like a grass, and bulb shrooms. Now, bulb shrooms act exactly the same as ordinary mushrooms, apart from the fact that when you put them in a crafting grid, they will create 3 crushed bulb shroom, which can be used to make something a little later on. And next up is the blue netherwart forest, and this would be composed of blue nethergrass, and this would actually be a separate block to this. It wouldn't just be that if you place this in this biome, it would change to that colour. This would be a separate block. This means that the trees would be made of blue veinwood and would create blue veinwood planks. And instead of red netherwart blocks for leaves, it would have blue netherwart blocks. Replacing the bulb shrooms would be flat tops, which are another type of mushroom, except they cannot create crushed flat tops, and instead of spikeweed, there would be spore grass instead. Now, the crushed bulb shrooms can be used to create bulb shroom blocks, which appear on top of the trees and all around the nether from the videos that were shown. It looks very similar to glowstone, but it does have a slightly lower light level, but I personally think it looks a tiny bit better. As well as this, the hoglin would spawn in this biome, and when killed, it would drop raw hoglin, hoglin tusks, and hoglin hide. If it's killed with fire aspect, it would drop cooked hoglin. Now, raw and cooked hoglin would be the only food source that can be obtained in the nether, and it would be exactly the same as cooked and raw rabbit. The hoglin tusk can be used to create white bone blocks, and the hoglin hide merely replaces leather in crafting recipes. Essentially, this replaces the cow. It's just a better way of obtaining food and other resources in the nether. No other features. Next up is the soul sand valley, and this would primarily be composed of soul sand and soulless sand. Now, soul sand has the same features as it did before, while soulless sand would just act as a normal block. Apart from that, these are purely decorational and they can't be crafted or used to craft anything. As well as this, soul sandstone would generate as stalagmites and stalactites, which connect the roof to the ceiling. I personally think these look really cool, and it can be crafted into the same blocks that sandstone and red sandstone can be crafted to, except it uses this palette instead. And just like in swamps and deserts in the overworld, bone blocks in the form of fossils will be able to spawn. However, they will be a tiny bit more common, and they won't spawn with coal around them. And you've probably noticed there's blue, fire and lava instead of your typical orange. Now, this isn't just that colour of fire in this biome. This is actually a whole new block called cured fire, cured lava and cured campfires. Now these, I will go on to how you can craft them later on, but they will basically be made with cured lava buckets, cured campfires, or cured fire charges. Now the only differences to normal fire is that they would burn for a slightly longer amount of time when the player walks into it. Next up are wither bushes, and these are basically the same as wither roses, because I mean we have wither roses, we have rose bushes, so why not have wither rose bushes? This is just a 2-tool variant of this, exactly the same, just inflicts a slightly stronger dose of the wither effect. Now what mobs spawn in here? Well, we already have the wither skeleton that already exists within the game, but there would also be lost souls. Now lost souls would just drop gas tears and bones, nothing else, and they wouldn't attack the player. They're completely passive. And wither skeletons are exactly the same, apart from the fact they drop withered bones instead of normal bone. Now withered bones can be used to craft withered bone blocks, and these are exactly the same as normal bone blocks, except they are a black shade instead. And withering meal can be used to pause the growth stage of a crop. For example, in a particular build, if you only want level 1 growth stage of beetroot, you can use that to freeze it at that growth stage, and it will never grow any further unless you destroy the crop. I personally think this is really useful for builders, and it acts in the opposite way of bone meal, which I think is especially suited to the wither skeleton theme. Next up we have piglin villages, and these would also be known as bastions. Now these are mostly composed of veinwood, red veinwood to be exact. They would have red veinwood logs in the corners, red veinwood planks, and occasionally netherrack and netherrack bricks to support it. Now as you can see here, the red veinwood can be used to create things like doors and trapdoors, and I personally really like this design of door. I think it looks great. And on the inside you just have some loot chests, some chests. Upstairs you might have a bed or two, and you'd also probably have some sort of tower integrated into them with the piglins. Now the piglins usually have a gold sword or a crossbow. However, if you see a piglin without a weapon, this means they are a barterer. That means you can trade with them, however they are very sketchy traders. Chances are, if you trade with them the first few times, they won't give you anything in return. However, the more you trade with them, the more friendly they will become. They will attack you unless you're not wearing gold armor, but they can offer you some really valuable items if you are wearing gold armor. However, there are ways to bypass this in the future. These bastions will also come with these target blocks, and when shot with a bow and arrow, they will emit a redstone signal. The closer it is to the bullseye, the stronger the redstone signal is. And they may come with features such as these hoggling cages or similar things. And I briefly looked at these netherrack bricks in my first ever Let's Add video. However, these would act very similarly to normal bricks. They would have stairs, slabs and wall variants, as well as cracked variants, chiseled variants, polished variants and mossy variants, which would also have stairs, slabs and wall variants. They would also be composed of nether brick stairs, slabs, walls and fences, as well as nether brick fence gates, which don't actually exist in the game, which doesn't really make too much sense. As well as this, there would also be the addition of the red nether brick fence and the red nether brick fence gate, which makes a little more sense when compared with normal nether brick. Moving on, we have some brand new enchantments. Now the first enchantment would be bartering, and it would only come in one level, but it basically increases the chance of the piglins trading properly with you, and also means they don't attack you regardless of what armor piece you are wearing. This is a very simple enchantment, however it would be very useful if you want to use your diamond armor in the nether. It would be very rare, and it can only be obtained by these items, which I'll go on to in a moment. The next items are Magma Walker, and this is only obtainable on boots. However, it essentially means that when you walk over lava, you're able to walk over it quickly. This works pretty much exactly the same as normal Frostwalker, however it works with lava instead. And finally we have Soulbound, and it basically means if you die you keep that armor. Now I'm going to put on these leggings just to show you that I'm not using keep inventory. Now these leggings do not have Soulbound on. Now if I do /kill Tobias III, I die, but I respawn with that armor. Now in the normal game it would not drop, and it would only drop the items without Soulbound, but I find that difficult to reproduce. Next up we have the nether anvil, which can be crafted with 3 nether bricks with 4 nether bricks at the bottom in the same shape as a normal anvil, and also the nether enchanting table, which is used with a book, obsidian and bulbstream blocks instead. Now these are the only ways of obtaining these 3 enchantments, and all of this was suggested by Just That Finley in my Discord server. So here I shamelessly promote my Discord server. If you want to have any input into this Let's Add series, then I highly recommend you check out my Discord server. It's in the link of all of my videos, so please check it out if you want to have any input into these series. So yeah, Just That Finley suggested 3 brand new enchantments which can only be applied with the nether anvil and the nether enchantment table. Next up isn't a new feature, it was just the one that was never added, and this is the hovering inferno. Now in Minecon 2017 there was actually a mob vote, and this guy was actually part of it, and unfortunately he didn't win. He was essentially a king of the blazes and would defend himself with cured flames such as these, which would expand around him in a ring. He would have to take out individually each one of his shields before he can finally attack his vulnerable head, and he would spawn very rarely with a pack of cured blazes, and these are basically blaze minions for him, which are blue, and they're a bit stronger than normal blazes. He would drop an infernal shield which cannot be crafted, it would only be dropped by him, and this is a lot stronger than a normal shield. It has a much larger protection radius rather than just the front 45 degrees that you normally get with a shield, and it would be able to block even more projectiles, including gassed fireballs and blaze fireballs and things along those lines. And when you kill the blaze minions, they will drop cured blaze powder and cured blaze rods, which can be used for a number of recipes which I'll go on to later. Now there's another block that I would show you here, which is copper sulfate ore. Now copper sulfate is a real life element, and when put in a Bunsen burner or a normal flame, it will produce a blue flame. Now when you want to make arrows, it can replace flint to create cured flaming arrows. Now these cured flaming arrows, when fired, will create, well, blue flames. Now these are a tiny bit stronger than normal flaming arrows, and they are a lot better. They burn for a little longer, and they are definitely more effective than just the flame enchantment. As well as this, cured blaze powder can be used to replace blaze powder in fire charges, and these create cured fire charges, and this is how you make the cured fire instead of the regular normal orange fire. Now you can use cured blaze rods in replacement with sticks, and copper sulfate in replacement with coal or charcoal to create a cured campfire, and this is essentially a blue campfire. It cooks meat a tiny bit faster, but apart from that it has no other different uses. Putting copper sulfate with a lava bucket in a crafting table will create a cured lava bucket, or alternatively you can just scoop up normal cured lava in a normal bucket just to create the cured lava. As well as this, nether gold ore will spawn in the normal biomes and can be smelted down into gold ingot. It's exactly the same as normal gold ore, however it just makes a bit more sense since piglins use gold weapons and there needs to be a way of getting gold in the nether. Next up is a brand new kind of structure, and this would be an escape portal. These would spawn in the ordinary current biome for the nether, and would spawn with an incomplete portal with a vein of obsidian nearby. They would often come with netherrack bricks around them and a couple of loot chests, along with the occasional pile of nether gold ore or nether copper sulfate ore. This will just make it slightly easier to get obsidian to get home, which basically means that if you get lost in the nether, then you have an easy way of getting back, even if you do have to supply yourself with a flint and steel or a fire charge. Another ore will also be implemented into this biome, and this would be basalt. Now basalt is essentially another form of granite, andesite and diorite. It can be crafted into stairs, slabs and walls, and it has no other uses other than decoration. As well as this, it can be made into basalt bricks, which have basalt brick stairs, slabs and walls, or also mossy basalt bricks, which require the sporal vines to be made. And finally, there would also be chiseled, cracked and polished variants of this basalt. Overall, this is just a decorative block, but I personally love how it looks, and it could definitely have some uses for maybe some evil castles or some other great builds like that. And for my penultimate idea, we would have a brand new biome, and this would be the fungal biome. This would spawn with mycelium, but on netherrack instead, and it would be the only other way of obtaining a similar mycelium block, rather than just getting the dirt covered mycelium in the overworld on the extremely rare mushroom islands. It would spawn with all types of mushroom and also the sporal grass, and it would consist of different netherrack pillars holding up the ceiling and separating it from the floor. It would also have a brand new type of tree, which would be a dead, charred tree. This would be called ashwood, and it would be able to create ashwood planks. It's exactly the same as normal wood, just a dark grey colour, and I personally think it looks fantastic and could be used in a multitude of different builds. And last but certainly not least, we have a few new blocks. And all of these are blocks that used to exist in the game. I've just changed the texture around a bit to match the current version of Jappa's textures. Firstly, there is glowing obsidian. If I just set the time to midnight, as you can see, it does emit a tiny little bit of light. As well as this, we have crying obsidian, which can be crafted with glowing obsidian surrounded by copper sulfate. And this would be how you set your spawn point. All you need to do is right click on it, and that sets your spawn point in the nether. And for my final suggestion, it would be the nether reactor core. This would be crafted with a cured blaze rod and a nether star. And when placed in a formation like this with quartz in the corners and basalt around it, it would activate. Now if you want to deactivate it without ruining the structure, you can just give it a redstone impulse and it will just turn it off. However, normally it would just look like this. This would act as a beacon for the nether and would give you active effects, particularly things such as fire resistance, and it would provide you with immunity to the piglins who wouldn't attack you even if you're not wearing gold armor. And there we have it. I hope you enjoyed all of these features. I really enjoyed making this, and I hope you enjoy the better quality of videos with this brand new mic. Once again, if you want to have input into the series in the future, I highly recommend you join my Discord. And I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.